OSB, or Oriented Strand Board, is a highly engineered structural panel product manufactured to PS2 quality control standards and used for many structural applications. Weyerhaeuser, a 100-year-old company, manufactures our OSB at 6 locations, 2 in Canada at Edson, Alberta and Hudson Bay, Saskatchewan, and 4 in the US at Grayling, Michigan, Sutton, West Virginia, Elkin, North Carolina, and Arcadia, Louisiana. We bring sustainably harvested logs into the mills. In the north, they're typically harvested and brought in pulpwood length, which is 8.5 feet long. In the south, we bring in logs anywhere from tree length to maybe 18 to 24 feet long. The reason they're brought in the north in pulpwood length form is so they can be thawed. And the reason we thaw logs in the north is so that we can take the bark off easily and then also turn the logs into quality strands later in the process. The mix of raw material coming into each of our mills varies by location depending on what wood is actually growing in that area. Many of our northern operations run primarily aspen, and our southern operations run southern pine, and our Sutton, West Virginia mill runs Appalachian hardwood species. The logs in our process are debarked because the bark actually offers no structural strength at all to the product, and we can take that bark and use it later on in the process for fuel. The debarked logs then head to the stranding process. In stranding, we manufacture strands in lengths anywhere from 4 to 6 inches long, widths of about 1 inch wide, and thicknesses of about 25 to 30 thousandths of an inch thick. Prior to drying, we have wet bins. The wet bins allow us to store an inventory of wet strands prior to drying. In the dryers, we dry the strands down from 50% moisture content, which is where Mother Nature makes them, all the way down to about 3 to 6%, which is the ideal moisture content for use in making OSB. After drying, the strands go through primary cyclones to take them out of the airstream. The airstream is then later on treated in the process environmental equipment. There's a whole series of applications from things called EFBs, or electrified filter beds in Canada. We've got wet electrostatic precipitators and regenerative catalytic oxidizers and thermal oxidizers in the US, as well as some biofilters. So there's a lot of environmental equipment used in our facilities. After drying, our strands then go through a set of screens. We use the screens to accept the accept material away from the fines, and the fines get used for fuel. The accept material, of course, goes on in the process to make OSB. From the screens, the strands travel on to dry bins, and at dry bins, again, like the wet bins, are used as an inventory of material in the process. From the dry bins, we go across weigh belts where we accurately measure the amount of strands going into the blenders so that we can meter the exact right amount of resin and wax into the process as required to make the board we're making. The recipe for each of these products is different. Depending on the product, maybe a sheathing product or a flooring product, we will vary the amount of surface and core resin. We'll vary the amount of wax that we put in terms of the water properties that we want the finished product to have. And we will vary the surface and core ratio in the product. There's a lot of things we actually change depending on the type of product we're making. From blending, the strands travel through conveying systems up to the forming bins, where we meter strands through orienters. So we've got the bottom layer, 2 core layers, and then a top layer, and we get a 3-layer plywood type product out of the forming and orienting system. Downstream of the forming operation, we measure the strands on the forming line in terms of weight and bulk density, and are able to accurately control the amount of material required to make the ideal weight mat. From the forming operation, we travel on to the press. Our OSB presses range anywhere from 8 to 12 feet in width, 16 to 24 feet in length, and up to 12 to 16 openings in height. We run these presses at 400 degrees plus Fahrenheit and high pressures to manufacture just the right thickness and density of OSB panel. After the panels are finished, they proceed on into the finishing area where they are rough trimmed, and then proceed through a final sawing operation to cut them into the exact length and width required. Quality control is ensured by several people per shift on all of our OSB mills. These people take the manufactured OSB, cut it into samples, pull it apart, bend it, break it, and ensure that the panels that we are producing are produced to the highest quality. They also inspect all of the finishing processes to make sure that they're all working correctly and that every bundle delivered into the warehouse meets our exacting quality requirements. So from this primary finishing operation, we move into secondary finishing. Our Easy Fit tongue and groove system is designed so that the tongue and the groove can actually slide together nicely in the floor as it's being put together. You don't have to hammer it together. You don't have to try and make it bottom out. It actually fits in very nicely. And then there's room a little bit for the panel to expand as it humidifies in place. In our finishing area, we manufacture some of our products with the downpour solution. The end product then winds up with a notch that water can go down through and travel off a joist so we can shed water off a flooring system and keep it dry. In our finishing operation, we imprint the panel, sometimes with inkjet systems, sometimes with grade roller stamps, to put the grade stamps in. The grade stamps show the certifying agency who's looking after ensuring we're meeting a PS2 requirements, and contain a host of other information, including the shift that the product was manufactured on. So if we have any issues at all in the field, we can track it right back to the shift that manufactured it. So after the sanding and tongue and groove area, our panels then travel through the rest of the process and get edge seal. Edge seal protects the panel from moisture absorption, and after that we go through a stenciling and strapping operation, and the finished product is packaged and then put into the warehouse. Our warehouses are intended to have anywhere from 6 to 12 days of storage in them and allow a buffer between the product being produced and either truck or rail shipment off to the customer. Our warehouser associates at all of our facilities are the highest quality people. They're very self-directed in terms of work teams. Every one of them has the opportunity and the requirement to shut the mill down if there's any safety or quality issues that they deem to be important. Our Weyerhaeuser OSB business has quality people. We make great quality products, and I'm very proud to be a part of this organization. I'm looking forward to safely and reliably making many, many good products in the future here, developing new products, meeting new customer demands, and enjoying the future in this business.